and Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me, as always, is Jacob Litton. Today is a cool episode because we're going to give away a couple Lions tickets for the Texans preseason game here. But before we get to those details, we have a guest on, as you can see on the screen if you're watching us live. It's Brian Michael from the new Passing Time Detroit Lions Talk podcast. They're a newer podcast. We've been conversing. Finally, we got it worked out. He's here. Rob is his partner, too busy to hang out with us, but that's okay. So he can listen to this later on and say, "What up, Rob? Sorry you didn't get on, but we'll see you next time." Well, we're glad to have you on, Brian. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. So I want you to tell the listeners a little bit of the genesis of your podcast and what you guys are about and where they can find you.
Yeah. So we're primarily on YouTube, but we're everywhere you can find your podcast. So like and subscribe, But it started off by a good buddy of mine. I'm an educator. Between classes, we started off talking nothing but Lions, and that's kind of where Passing Time was born. I got a buddy of mine, Rob, who likes to talk. So I thought, hey, another Lions fan that likes to talk, let's do it. So
that's awesome. And where can they find you?
It's at Passing Time Detroit Lions Talk on YouTube. It's at Passing Time Detroit Lions Talk on Spotify, and check us out.
Good. All right. And you guys are weekly. What do you guys plan on doing during the season? Releasing once a week, twice a week? What's your plan?
So that's the goal is once a week. We want to be a fan-based podcast. We're not insiders by no means, but as fans, we have our reactions, we have our comments, we have our opinions, and just kind of sharing those.
Yeah, I like it. That's kind of how we roll here. Half of us have good opinions, half of us don't. You could choose which one you want to.
We'll let you be the judge.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, so Jacob, I know that we forgot to do this with Ash. I'm going to do this right at the top. What we always do this with a new guest. Ask Brian your question.
We did not forget to do it with Ash. You just decided to go rogue and, just jumped around back and forth at the timeline. So anyway,
yeah,
Brian,
okay.
Good to have you on. We like to ask,
Thanks.
I like to ask this to everybody, but so when you first became a Lions fan, so if you think back to when you first really cared about it, back in the day when you were really fully invested every week, live and die with the team, who was the quarterback when you first really became a hardcore fan?
Mitchell, so that was the years that I was like, okay, I'm in, Barry, it was a rough time here, but we were good a year or two and not a good a year or seven, so it was, so those are my days, those early 90s into my high school career. So
yeah, did you go to any games at the Silverdome, see Barry or anything?
Yeah, we went to a couple. I mean, it wasn't frequent, but yeah, we got to the Silverdome a couple times, and yep, when they opened Ford Field, got the ability to go there once or twice. So yep,
nice. Yeah, I went to I don't know if I told you about this, Jacob, or not. The season the Ford Field opened, I went to the first game, but it was an away game. But they had they opened it up and you could watch, and tickets for free as far as I know. I was in college at Western Michigan at the time. They were playing the Miami Dolphins, and Ricky Williams ran wild. We lost 50 something. It was bad. And it was but Ford Field was cool, and it was neat to go, spend that time, and it was, affordable for my college income at the time.
Nice.
All right. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We are giving away those free Lions tickets, like I said. So if you're in the chat today and during this live, any point during this live, we just need your email. You'll get 2 entries for the free tickets. If you're listening to us on our audio podcast, which I think a majority of people do, all the way up till 5 p.m. on Friday. So we're recording this Thursday night, so on the 21st. So on the 22nd, all the way up till 5 p.m. If you email us at our email, which is in the summary, wherever you get your podcast, but I'll tell you right now, it's called Talking Grit Podcast. There's 2 G's in the middle, so Talking and Grit. There's 2 G's in there, so don't get tripped up, at yahoo.com. If you email that and just say, you want to be entered in the in the giveaway, we'll hook you up. 2 free tickets. Section 200, they're my season tickets. I can't go on Saturday. Got a Boy Scout thing I got to go to. So figured we'd hook one of our listeners up. So if you want to be interested in that, just just let us know. Couple shout outs I want to give.
Jason's going for another badge, so he can't go to the game.
Yes.
He's hoping that he's finally going to build that fire.
I know. It's been, dude, I'm 45. I have been doing this for like 30 years. I'm trying to get there, but I can't.
Real quick.
Can't do it.
5 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you.
Eastern time.
Yep. Well, I'm going to assume anybody that wants the tickets is going to be in the Eastern time zone. I'm hoping, but we'll see.
You're going to assume, right?
Yep. And let's see here. I want to thank Detroit Larry. This was a cool note that Jacob and I got on Reddit. Detroit Larry seeked me out. This was before we were going to do the giveaway. He offered me or Jacob 2 tickets to this upcoming game because he can't go. And he said for free, he was going to give us his tickets. These are not the tickets I'm giving away because that would be rude to do, right? They're all my own tickets. But I just want to give him a shout out because it was super nice that he did that. He, had listened to the show for a while. It was the first time he'd reached out to us. So there are very good people in this world still, Jacob. And that was very cool. I also want to thank, we got a shout out from Ben on Spotify. It says, one of my favorite podcasts. Keep going, guys. Take that, Brian. He said, one of your favorite. Maybe Passing Time's his other one. I don't know. Maybe will be one day, right? As people get more and more people find you out. And then Ash Soden from the UK Lions Roar said, great show, guys, after the last one. So just wanted to give those guys a shout out. All right, Jacob, let's move on to some Lions talk. There's been some transactions and some injuries and updates. I'm going to let you go on that.
All right. Transactions, the big ones, which we were not sure if they were going to be coming or not before the preseason was over. We did activate Khalil Dorsey and Mekhi Wingo. So any thoughts of them not being ready or starting on PUP or something like that? They are active and starting to get some work in practice. On the other end, Ahmad Hassanin is going to be out a while. Quote that we have from Dan Campbell: pec injury that he's battling through. You got to figure going to be out a while means he's going to be starting on the PUP. Don't have a whole lot of details. They're keeping that under wraps. Right. They're keeping that under wraps.
Yeah. Let me interject real quick. So Al Karsten from Pride Detroit said Hassanin was walking around practice today and like swinging his arms. So it wasn't in a sling or anything like that. So we're not speculating on anything like that, but I got to think it's less serious if he doesn't have it in a sling. Obviously, we don't know anything, but to me, that's better news than what I initially thought it was going to be. Sorry to interrupt there.
You guys have probably seen on his Instagram that he said he avoided surgery, so that's also positive. So
yes, exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Jacob. There was another good news.
Other good news. Kirby Joseph back at practice. A lot of unknowns around that. Figure out what was going on. No, he's ready to rock. He showed out today. And then back to, we're going positive, negative. This is the order that Jason put this in.
Yeah.
This is just how he lives. So back to the negative. Sione Vaki left practice, still dealing with some sort of leg injury, I believe, right? Or is that not confirmed?
I don't know. I think they said it was a leg injury. He walked off with the trainers, though, but we don't know any severity or anything.
Very, very frustrating preseason. We wanted to see a lot of Vaki, and we were not able to. So hopefully this is not something that lingers, throughout the whole season. The biggest one, though, the headline for me anyway, is that Graham Glasgow was injured and left practice right at the end. And we do not have any sort of update. They're not really giving anything. He was slow to get up. He did get up and walk off on his own power. He didn't have to be helped or carted off or anything like that. For what it's worth, this was at the end of the team drills. I think there was only one play left. So I don't think he missed a whole lot of work. And potentially, if this was a game situation, maybe he would have been able just to play through it. But obviously not what we want to hear. It's already, a big drop off to lose Frank Ragnow. So if Graham Glasgow is also hurt, not good for the offensive line.
No.
Last two that we have, Maurice Norris was at practice, still in concussion protocol, I believe. So he's not really doing anything outside of individual work. And Tristan Colon also at practice, brace on his elbow. I think he was also just doing individual work. So positive, negative, positive, negative. This is how Jason goes.
That's right. All right. Brian, I got to ask you a question. I know a lot of people get alarmed about injuries. I don't know. I have a read on what you think about it. First of all, are you worried about the injuries that have, people are worried about the amount of injuries in practice? Are you one that sounds the alarm on that?
I mean, I got PTSD from last year. I mean, I think we all do.
Yeah.
I I am worried. But if you think about who's getting injured, it's primarily our fringe, if not backups, except for Graham now. I mean, that's probably my biggest red flag and my biggest worry.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What would you say, Brian, like someone that says, that blames this injuries, they want to blame someone, right? Everyone wants to blame someone. They want to blame the trainers or anything like that. Do you buy into that? What's your thought on that?
Football's a violent sport. I mean, I played it growing up, and you get hurt.
Yeah.
And when you get these big, strong men who are bigger and stronger than everybody else going really, really fast and running into each other a lot, things are going to happen. So I think that the Lions practice hard. I think that they hit and they hit hard. And I think they're all physical. They all want to show themselves, show their worth, and they don't want to take reps off. And I think by doing that, it's going to make us better in the long run. I just think it's scary, because we don't want to get to the end of the last season and not have anybody in the cupboard. So
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think you said something great there. We pick up players that work really hard and just give it their all. And when you do that, things can happen, right? And so I don't really subscribe to the theory that there's something wrong with our training staff or anything like that. I think some of it's bad luck and some of it's just the players that we have. When you think about Hutch's injury, that's a freak injury breaking. Like we had 4 people broke bones last year. Those are freak injuries. I mean,
and that's nothing to do with the training staff at that point, right?
No.
Exactly.
And I mean, you could attribute to playing hard and going, at dangerous speeds or whatever, but a lot of that's just bad luck. Not a lot of soft tissue injuries. It's mostly stuff like that or ACL or something like that. Jacob, are you in line with that, or do you have a different?
Yeah, I don't
view?
really like blaming the trainers, although I do see where people are coming from with the level of injuries and everything that we've had. Especially, I don't have that in front of me. I was trying to find it real quick, but I know that the Eagles last year, I think, had the fewest missed games due to injury. And, that turns out into a Super Bowl championship for them. So obviously, with the team that we had last year, without those injuries on defense and everything, you got to think that we would have, obviously had a much better shot. But, like you guys already said, the bones thing, I mean, Alex Anzalone breaking his arm like that, Hutch breaking his leg, that nothing the trainer could do about anything like that. So I actually don't know the training staff. I imagine that they've probably been there for several years, and the Lions know what they're doing with that. So I don't like blaming the training staff, but I do see the point that people bring up. That's their job, right? Is keep everybody healthy and keep them ready. And when things are not going that way, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Before we get too far out, I had a question. Just because we were talking about the Graham thing, do you think, and this is for both of you guys, I want to hear from both of you, but do you think, let's say Graham is hurt, is the drop off between Frank Ragnow and Graham Glasgow bigger than the drop off would be between Graham and, assuming that Kingsley Eguakun had to start? Because obviously you got Frank, all pro, one of the best to ever do it, and then you got Graham, struggled last year. Obviously we're hoping that he, returns to form and is comfortable at center and everything. But I mean, do you feel like the drop off between Frank and Graham is bigger than the drop off between Graham and Kingsley?
I'm going to say it has to be, right? I mean, you're going from an all pro to Graham Glasgow and Graham Glasgow to Kingsley. Now, is there a drop off to Kingsley? Yeah, I think he's an undersized center who, he makes up for a lot of his lack of size and with his ability and his tenacity, but I don't think he's an all-pro either. So between Graham and Kingsley, it's probably a little bit closer than it would be between Ragnow and Graham, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I don't know, because I'm thinking, Graham still has center experience, and now Eguakun doesn't. I mean, in-game, like NFL game experience, Eguakun doesn't. So that's a huge difference right there. That's hard to tell. I mean, Frank was Frank, all pro and just amazing.
Top 2, top 3 in the league.
I know.
Yeah, so that's
a stumper. That's a stumper, Jacob.
Well, that's why I was thinking,
different.
In my opinion, I think the drop off between Frank and Graham is bigger than Graham and Kingsley.
And
Kingsley did play center all throughout college, so it's not like the position is new to him. I hope that this is just, irrelevant,
I
and
hope
that
it's
Graham
a
is fine.
sprained ankle and he's going to tape
Right.
it up and be fine, right? That's
Exactly.
what we're all hoping for, like crossing our fingers and everything else. So
Yeah, I don't want to have to test this theory.
We don't play next week, so that's good that he's got 2 weeks to heal up. We probably won't find out anything until Saturday. Someone will ask Dan Campbell after the preseason game at the presser. So that's the first bit of information that we're gonna get. And my bet is it's gonna be one of the first questions that's asked. They'll ask a little bit about the game, and then they'll get that's what everybody wants to know. It's a great question, Jacob. I'll have to think about more on that. That's pretty good. All right. Joint practice today, right, boys? There was practice all week. We'll talk a little bit about that. Joint practices, we'll talk about the end. That's where they got all their work in. Early in the week, Tesla had a very good preseason game again, right?
mm-hmm.
And we've been waiting for him to get some run with the ones. It happened on, I think, Monday or Tuesday's practice. He went up against DJ Reed. They showed the video and bested DJ Reed, who, we know how good DJ Reed is, right? So does this overload the hype meter on Tesla when he did that for you, Jacob?
The hype meter was already pretty high. I don't know if it could overload it. I mean, because obviously we don't know how many reps they took. If they took 10 reps, maybe he only beat them that one time, and that's what the social media team decided they were going to jump on. I mean, that, the hype train is full speed ahead, especially, Tim Patrick's slow to come back, and I think, in the joint practices today, he only ran with the twos. I don't think he ever ran with the ones. They had Khalif Raymond out there. So I don't know what that means, if they're easing him back into it or something. But, I mean, it seems like the opportunity for Tesla is coming quicker than we thought.
What about you, Brian? What's your feeling on Tesla? Are you all in, pushing all your chips in?
I mean, he's a West Michigan guy. I'm a West Michigan guy. I mean, he's right up the road from us. I've seen him play in that wing T offense at Hudsonville Unity Christian. I mean, the guy was a stud at that position. For me, he's an easy guy to root for, right? You want him to succeed, and not that it wants to be the detriment of Tim Patrick, but at the same time, like, we came into the draft wanting to get younger at that position, and they did. And now we've got really good problems to have in order to sift through. Like, what do we want to do? We got some talent. We got Meeks sitting there too that we have to make decisions on. Lovett is another guy we got to make decisions on. And now Tim Patrick is going to be a guy that they might have to make some tough decisions on. And I don't know if you guys watched Dan's media session this morning. He was saying that there was some tough decisions that are going to be had, and he could think of at least 3 of them right away.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking Tim is probably one of those 3. So
the interesting thing about Tim is I think he's been running mostly with the twos from every report that I've said pretty much this whole practice. And Khalif has been, even when Tim was healthy earlier, Khalif was getting a lot of run with the ones, which is just interesting. I'm not sure why they're doing that way. I find it hard to believe for them to not put Tim Patrick on the roster. I don't think he's 100% locked, but if that happened on Tuesday at 4:00 when those cuts come in, or earlier, if they announce it earlier, I'd be pretty shocked about that.
I agree. I mean, if I had to guess, and I know you guys are doing your 53 man on Sunday, but if I had to guess, there's 7 wide receivers that are really looking good. So
yep, no, I'm with
For
you
sure.
on that. All right, couple interviews. Jacob didn't do his homework. I know Brian did. So
yes, sir.
we'll talk a little bit about this at practice this week. Kay Adams, from formerly of the NFL Network, she was on the Good Morning, the Good Morning Football for a while, and then now she's out on her own, does her podcast. Very good interviewer. She got to talk to Brad Holmes, and it was a pretty good interview. However, the thing that I think is interesting, and Brad Holmes has said this over and over again. So if you're making your 53s, this is an important statement. He's prioritizing depth over, stashing a young player. And I don't know if either one of you saw this right before we came on. Detroit Lions released this video with Brad Holmes in a car. It's an Expedition commercial, but it's Brad Holmes talking about this. And he basically reiterates the same thing, that, he's prioritizing depth over stashing a young player. I found that very interesting for the 53s. I did your homework for you, Jacob. So when you're making your 53, make sure you remember that.
Brad has said that in several interviews, so I've heard.
Okay, good. He has said it in several interviews, 3 or 4, and so that tells me that I think we're still feeling the sting of last year, right? That we didn't have enough depth because of all the injuries. Is that how you read it, Brian?
Absolutely. I mean, you have those spots I mean, you're limited. And when you have that many injuries like last year, I mean, you have to go to that well. And when that well is developmental, it's dry. And if you don't have guys to support your team, you're going to go to other practice squads that have those things like we did last year. So I think guys like Hendon Hooker are probably like scared right now because they're a developmental guy that's not developing. Guys like Giomanu, like think he's still okay for one more year, but those guys have got to be scared that they're not developing, right? So Broderick Martin, I mean, I think that's probably a no-brainer at this point that he's not developing.
Yeah, exactly. Kay Adams also interviewed Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra did most of the talking. Ja doesn't really, he still doesn't look comfortable in those type of settings at all. But the interesting thing, Jacob, that they asked, Kay Adams asked is, did they watch the Caleb Williams first drive with the Bears? And they both said yes. And then they both like kind of looked at each other and just started laughing. And it was very awkward, the whole situation.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then they
didn't they say it was weird seeing the same plays? Or
Yes.
It was weird seeing our
Funny
plays
seeing
ran?
the same plays. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Funny
Yeah.
seeing the same plays.
Yep. And so that was, if you haven't seen it, watch it for that. It's probably quite funny. The other this interesting interview, the Terrion Arnold interview with Kay Adams. I don't know when they're getting married, but I think it's at some point because TA had googly eyes all over Kay, and Kay looked the same way. Kay
was smitten. Yeah. Kay was smitten.
She was. Yeah. They had talked before, and yeah, it was quite funny. It was like watching two high schoolers talk at a dance or something.
Did you guys know that TA was a rapper? I did not know that TA was a rapper.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that he wrote a draft day song, but it's like, and she's like, have you gonna release it? And he's like, no, not yet. You got this. You're in your second year. You can't release a draft day rap when you've been in the league for 2 years.
I think he's still waiting on Roger Goodell. Apparently he's going to do a cameo in that one. So
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, Roger's going to be right in on that. I'm sure. Maybe when the next black, bruise on the NFL comes, he'll do that just to get focused somewhere else.
Yeah. Something I did love about Kay's interviews, though, is that, I mean, it was very relaxed. It's very cool. It just seems like they were just having a good time and talking football or whatever else. I love that about what she did with all three of those interviews. It was just cool to see. So
that's why she's a very good interviewer. She gets people to relax and just kind of, be free and just have a conversation.
Yep.
They were all short. They were like 10 to 15 minutes in length. But yeah, it was just very comfortable. And I know when Brad was talking, Amon-Ra and Ja were went on the other side, because they kept referencing them sitting there. But yeah, it's good if you're looking for something to fill in these next 2 weeks, fill your Lions time before the first game. Watch those. It's a good watch.
No, you got to watch Talking Grit and Passing Time. So those are the things. Yeah.
Oh, is that what we do? Okay, good. See, new guy on the block. He's pushing his podcast hard. He's like, listen to us. They're already listening to you, man. They're already listening to us. No, you got to check out Passing Time. Ryan Clark was also another interview. Did one with Jahmyr Gibbs and Monty. And the whole thing is pretty good. A lot about Dan Campbell. Some of the, if you've seen these interviews, it's a lot of the same about the culture here and stuff like that. But the interesting thing that I got out of this interview, and it's been on Twitter, so you might have seen this, is Monty said about Ja, he's like, if he's not now, he's going to be the best running back in the NFL. And the brotherhood between those two make them infinitely great to root for. And it's another reason why I'm so glad that we got David Montgomery on this team.
Yeah. And they love each other. I mean, it's awesome to see that those, like you said, brotherhood is there. They love each other and they want each other to succeed just as much as they want to succeed themselves. So
the other thing, I guess I didn't put in the outline, but I just remembered that I thought was interesting. They asked him about the fumble in San Francisco, and Monty went over and counseled Jahmyr Gibbs. And Monty's thing was I've seen it ruin other players. And, Jahmyr, I know he's had a couple fumbles, couple of high profile, one on Thanksgiving, but generally he's very good with the football. And, Monty doing a big brother thing of just don't dwell on this. You're a good back, and didn't want to see him go down to the dark side. And, just a stand up dude. And he's so easy to root for.
Definitely.
There wasn't
the other part of that interview though.
Oh,
was
go ahead,
about, was about Goff. because they talked about Jared Goff and just his
Yes.
importance to the team and everything. So yeah, that was cool to hear. And I mean, it always seems really laid back when they're talking with Ryan Clark and everything too. It seemed fully honest, fully genuine. Like, you know, they're really said Goff is a dog. He's, you know, the most important player on the team. So yeah, it was good to hear because I mean, that's how we all feel too, right? I mean, the team looks drastically different without Jared Goff.
Yeah. Which I don't think anyone saw when he came to this team. Like, no, like I know I did not picture Jared Goff as like a tough guy, a grit guy. I didn't have that picture of him when he came in. My view of far was he's a turnover machine. You know, McVay gave up on him, and I didn't know all that stuff. You know, I knew that he could, you know, with a good team around him, he could play real well. He took a team to the Super Bowl. I knew that. But at the time when he came to Lions, we were not that team. We didn't have all that stuff around there. So it was scary times. But he's endured himself to this city. And yeah, I'm glad he's my quarterback.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'll be upfront, man. I thought he was a bridge quarterback. I thought he was the guy to get us through to the next guy. And I thought probably Hendon Hooker might have been that next guy, but I was wrong. So
yeah, I think you were not alone because I'm definitely in that he's gonna bide time till we got the next guy when we first got him. Well, we were in a different mindset as Lions fans at that time too. So that, like, I don't fault anyone for feeling that way. And that was the major narrative at the time. Brad and Dan were right up front, like, this is our quarterback. I would not expect them to say anything less, but I feel that they truly knew. Brad knew what he had, and Jared, and because obviously he knows him really well from the Rams days. And yeah, no, he's been perfect for what we got. Now, granted, they've surrounded Jared with
some weapons,
a ton of talent, more than
some weapons.
Yeah, some, you know, up and down. He's got, you know, great offensive line, all that stuff. So we've done right by Jared Goff, but Jared Goff has done his part too. All right, today let's get to the meat and potatoes. Joint practices today, big deal. After last week of, you know, day one dominating Miami, day two Miami putting up a little more of a fight, but we still took it to them. I was waiting for this one. I knew they had CJ Stroud presents its own problem. Nico Collins, best wide receiver, you know, that we're gonna, you know, face, because last week Tyreek and Jalen Waddle did not play, so I was hoping to see that matchup. And then on the defensive side, the defense, you know, the edges for the Texans are arguably the best in the league with Donnell Hunter and William Anderson Jr. And then they also have a great corner, Stingley Jr., one of the best, you know, so seeing how our wide receivers match up. So going into it, I knew this was going to be a tougher matchup. I did not expect the headline to be Lions dominate practice again. And it turned out to be a lot more even. Brian, was there anything that stood out that you saw that you were waiting for to see in practice that you saw that you were happy to see, or that, you know, alarmed you, or what was your impression?
No, I also did not expect another Dolphins shellacking. I thought that it'd probably be way more even, and that Houston, I mean, they do it right. They do it very similarly to what the Lions do it. They hit, they are gritty, they get after it on a daily basis. They have talent, and they're continuing to grow their talent through the draft. I think that, you know, they're a very similar team. They might be a year behind us. So I was, and after today, maybe they're not, you know, maybe they're closer than I think. I think they have a lot of talent there, and they showed that, but we do too. And I thought, you know, going into this, I wanted to see us stay healthy, and I want us to compete. You know, if they're going to come take it to us, that was going to be something I was going to be concerned about.
Yeah. And now, Jacob, I know you read the reports. I know you had to work all day, so I don't know how much you got to see. Was there anything that stuck out to you that you saw in the practice reports?
First, something else I want to get Brian's opinion on. Grant Stewart returned kicks again. Grant Stewart fumbled another kick return.
Yes.
So I know Jason's thoughts. We kind of already talked about that because I'm not very big on having Grant return kicks. Jason seems to like the idea. Brian, what's your thought with that?
The football is the most important thing. So if he can't hang on to the football, then he can't be back there. Mm-hmm. Do I like the idea? Absolutely. Do I like a 250-pound guy like battering ram running straight at you? Yep. I like that. Or if you don't kind of kick it to him, he's blocking for the guy that's going to be coming down at you. I like that. But if you are not going to hang on to the football, then you're a liability. You can't be back there. So,
yeah. I mean, I like the idea, but speed kills.
The idea.
I mean, I'd rather have faster. They're going to hold on to the football. They're going to be able to hit, you know, they're going to see a seam and they're going to be able to hit one. I
but
don't
he's
think
surprisingly fast. He's a fast. I mean, he's not your Jack Campbell linebacker. He's fast.
No, he
Right.
is fast. Brian, you're right. You got to hold on to the football.
Gotta hang
So
on to the football.
yeah, the second fumble has me alarmed. We'll see what happens, but it would be disastrous for him to fumble the opening kickoff of the season against the Packers. Oh my God, I don't know if I could handle that. So we'll see what they do. But yeah, that was towards the end of practice when they were doing they did some kickoffs there. Amo had a pretty good day. He did start out with a drop, but then he had multiple touchdowns. And from what Jeremy said, that he faked Derek Stingley out multiple times, and that makes me very, very, very happy. I am a little bit worried about the drops. He's had a few in practice, and so that kind of concerns me. Again, you got to hold on to football; it's the most important thing, right? But if he can juke out Derek Stingley, his route running may have really taken a huge jump.
He needs to do
He's
those
a problem.
200 jugs machine catches with Amon-Ra.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always had this issue. I mean, he will make some tough contested catches, but then there's also just seems like quick ones. I don't know if he's just looking upfield or just ready to make that next move too quick. He just, has those drops ever so often. Hold on to the ball.
He's got to.
But he's even if he drops it, and I'm not saying I want him to drop the ball, but even with him dropping the ball, he is a threat, and that teams are going to have to account for. Whether that means that's one guy over the top and one guy underneath. I mean, that's a game plan issue for other teams, which I love because that opens up the underneath for route running genius Amon-Ra, and now maybe even a tall, strong, hand catching Tesla. So I mean, I think, and not to mention Sam Laporta. We got weapons. So
yeah. Sam Laporta had a good practice from what I'm hearing too. So that's good to hear. Let's go back to Tesla, who you just mentioned. When the number 2s got in there, the first 2 plays were touchdowns to Tesla. Like the hype train is just out of control here. I'm loving it. I'm tempering my expectations because then these are the number 2s. He hasn't faced the number 1s. However, he's showing that he belongs above the 2s. And when he faces, when he gets in there, he's going to be like our 4th wide receiver. So he's again not going to be facing CB1 or CB2. I'm super excited about this kid. And the cool thing about Tesla is that he's going to be on this team and he's going to be active because he's active in special teams, right? So like he's going to be out there week 1 playing, and it won't be a situation of him being inactive because they can't use him on special teams. No, he might be like the number 2 gunner after Dorsey, depending on how things shake out. So I am super excited about this.
And I'm hearing that he is getting some reps with Goff, which is kind of exciting. I mean, it's not just Kyle Allen and Hooker. I mean, he's starting to work himself and show his worth. So
it'll be interesting. We won't know because now, everything's going to be closed. The media will get like the first 15 minutes of practice. So we won't know what they're practicing. And then it'll be a surprise on game day when he gets his package in there. The thing is that like Tesla is so easy to like notice on the field that, sometimes when I'm in the stadium, it's harder to notice it than it is on TV because you're sitting further back. But I will be able to know that Tesla's in this, and not only will I be excited, my boys are going to be super excited because they love them some Tesla.
You guys getting some 18 jerseys?
We haven't yet, but it depends. So my buddy Justin will only buy a jersey, like he's a Browns fan. He'll only buy it if they get to their second contract. I have a branch, and I know he's going to get a second contract. I got a hutch. I know he's getting a second contract. But so I would not follow my buddy's rule. I will probably want to get a Tesla jersey. What about you, Jacob? You going to get a Tesla?
Let's see if he changes his number. That's my thing. I want to see what number he goes with before.
Yep.
But what if
I get you.
What if he's a secret weapon? And I mean, what if he's been training with Goff this whole time indoors and just nobody's been able to see it? Right? I mean, this is the last practice that anyone's going to be able to see. So maybe the indoor practices they've already been trying to get work in. Maybe that's already part of the plan.
He's got to be part of the plan. He's shown enough in the 3 preseason games and in practice that he says he's got to be a part of the plan.
The thing we will see him in goal line, like down the red zone. His big body is just going to be a huge weapon. He's I mean, he doesn't have the body of a tight end, but he has like the last touchdown that you saw, he boxed out that corner, and you can't get around the guy. He's just so big, and so like he has that tight end like Antonio Gates like mentality where like you're just a basketball player and you're just the defender can't get through you, and I could see that being very useful down in the red zone. Yeah. It's
And
good. It's good.
being a hands catcher, being able to separate himself with so catching with his hands, he's not relying on his body to bring those balls in. That's huge.
It's huge because he could catch away from his body. So if he's boxing that guy out, the defender can't get. I mean, they can't get around him to get their hands in there to knock it out. And so yes, 100%, I agree with you. A couple things I would just want to talk. Rob's in chat. So what's up, Rob?
Yeah. Let's go.
He said that Scott Mitchell and Charlie Batch would be his, and so he said, "Go get it, boys." Got Frog in here. He's saying, all these questions about the roster will be answered next week. And our buddy Lion King is in chat saying, "What up?" So, what up, Lion King? We got some people in the live. If you miss it at the beginning, if you want to get the free Lions tickets, put your email in the chat, and it gets you an entry in there. So just chat your email, and then I'll put in the entry, and then when I give them away, so tomorrow. So check that out. Defense had 4 interceptions today. 4. Dan Campbell's been wanting turnovers, preaching turnovers. Got to get a turnover. Got to get the hand on the ball. 4 interceptions. I'm sure that he's ecstatic with that performance.
Do you have the list of the players that got them?
I know Avonte Maddox got one. Kirby got one. Kirby got the first one, like the second
7
play.
on 7.
Yeah, 7 on 7. He got one in a 7 on 7. That favors the offense like extremely. And second play after being out, Kirby got one, jumped the route, got the interception. Amit got one. Yeah, Kirby got one. Avonte Maddox got one. I don't know who the fourth one was. I can't remember right now. But four interceptions, which is I'm happy with. TA did not get an interception, but he had a really nice pass breakup in one of the first ones. So yeah, it's
also like I was trying to look at reports, for both sides other than just like Lions, and it did seem like from what I had saw before that Terrion Arnold had his hands full with Nico Collins. I don't know if you saw anything about that, but it seemed like they were really back and forth. Like it was not, I guess how practice went in general was kind of a push. There was not anybody, consistently getting the better of the other.
I'm okay with that. I mean, Nico Collins is one of your top. I mean, you can argue whatever top 7 wide receivers in this league. I mean, you can go up and down on that. I'm not exact. I don't have the list in front of me, but he's a top wide receiver in this league. For TA to break even with that, I'm okay with because the rules favor the offense. So if you're breaking, I'm okay with it
for sure.
All right, the
After
offense.
That,
go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Nope. I was just going to move on.
Yeah, the offense struggled running the ball at the middle, which I was a little bit shocked about. I don't know if I'm overly concerned, about it. It just might have been the way the defense was lined up, but I was kind of disappointed that when I heard that we couldn't run the ball up the middle.
I think it was Jeremy or somebody had posted that, it was evident that David Montgomery was very frustrated by that too. Mm-hmm. So I didn't see exactly like how it played out and everything like that, but the Texans have a good defensive line. They've got Sheldon Rankins. Obviously we already talked about their edge defenders and everything like that. So, I mean, it was a big test. Christian Mahogany and Tate Ratledge, you would think would be better historically better with run blocking than pass blocking. So this was going to be a big test for them. So, it's not fully clicking right away, or the Texans defense is really just that good.
Yeah. This is kind of what I was expecting. We talked about breaking even, and I'm okay with that. Actually, I think there's a benefit for us to show these struggles, and the benefit is that we can correct these mistakes, right? And I'm a firm believer, not just in football but in life, we learn more from our mistakes than our successes, and I'm okay with having some stuff to correcting. Let's get it corrected now before the season starts, and let's know what our problems is, whether it's communication, whether it's scheme or whatever. I'd rather know now than week 1 against the Packers.
Definitely.
Crossing routes really and just over the middle gave the Lions fits all day, and that some of that could be Nico Collins, some of that could be their wide receivers, but to me it sounds like maybe a communication issue. I don't know if they're playing zone or man in those situations, but generally in those crossing routes, either the quarterback has a lot of time and they can get across the field, or you're passing them off in zone and it's just the coverage isn't there. So I don't know exactly where the fault was, but that's something to look in the future to see if that's lingers into the regular season. And our boy Keith Cooper was getting reps with the ones again. And I don't know what to think about this. What do you think, Brian? I mean, what's your read on this? I know what the obvious read is, right? I know what the obvious read is, But do you think it's real, or do you think we're just testing this kid to see where he's
Man,
got?
I think we got to be I went to the Miami preseason game, right? And
Okay.
I wasn't impressed by Keith Cooper. I mean, I'm all I'm hearing is Keith Cooper's is a stud. You know, he's showing out. He's got a long wingspan. He's got pressure off the edge. He can play the run and and pass rush. And I mean, I don't see everything. I'm just a fan, but I saw what I saw, and I wasn't terribly as impressed. I was more impressed with Uku and Agude and Nate Lynn, you know, and Muhammad. I don't see it yet. But again, I'm a fan from the outside looking in. I'm not there every day. I don't see what they see every day. So I see him as I don't know. I see him as maybe a fringe, the last guy in, or maybe the first guy out, or trying to get him on a practice squad. I don't know.
Yeah. That's the interesting point, right? I mean, Jacob and I, when we do our 53s this Sunday, is going to be interesting to where you put him, Jacob, and where I put him, because
Right.
the thought process, just to give you a little, you said it, Brian. Can he make it to the practice squad? Because one thing I'm here for the beat writers is how good he looks in practice. But what you're saying, and I'm agreeing with you. It's not like he's flashed in the games, in the
There's no
preseason
tape.
games. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're another team, unless you're following the beat writers, which I doubt they're doing, they don't, they could be. But I mean, are you going to trust Jeremy Reisman, a guy, are you going to trust his eyes over
Right.
another NFL scout? Because obviously they scouted this guy at some point. But he was
I
a
mean,
tryout player too.
He's a
So-
UDFA. I mean,
yeah.
he's not.
Well, he wasn't even a UFP.
Not even- right.
Yeah, he's a tryout. So it's like no
Tryout.
other team even tried. It's not like 3 teams tried to sign this guy, and he
Right.
went to the Lions for a tryout. So like he's even less on the radar, I would think. So like if you're the Lions and you're like, hey, can we, we want to keep another guy, Eric Hallett. So let's just say, he's another fringe guy. Like Eric Hallett probably has more tape. He could probably end up on somebody else's roster. Whereas Keith Cooper, can we do that? So it's an interesting thing to break down. Jacob, do you have any thoughts on Keith Cooper?
Yes. I was waiting for you to stop talking so I could finally get.
All right. That's how this
This
goes.
is how
Brian.
this goes, Brian. Jason just
Yeah.
talks, then he'll move on to the next subject.
I get
Anyway,
it. Rob's the same way.
here we go. Well, so you can relate. Anyway, yes, Keith Cooper. Getting a look with the ones. My opinion is that, kind of what we talked about earlier with Brad Holmes talking about room for developmental players. And that's what you have right here with Keith Cooper. We don't know exactly what he is. Now is the chance to see what he's got. You put him out there with the ones, you put him out there with some tough competition, and you see, does he sink or does he swim? Is this, is he moving far enough along where we think he's going to be able to make that climb? Is he going to be able to help our team this year? We don't want another, James Houston around for a couple years, showing some flashes here and there and everything. Let's see what he's got right now. Also, another interesting thing, I think Jeremy had posted this earlier, but it just, Dan Campbell had said that he doesn't even remember a time when Brad Holmes was ever wrong about a player making it through waivers.
He's always right.
So that's something they're looking at too. Like, okay, is this somebody we want on the practice squad? And if we do, is he going to make it through the waivers? Are we going to be able to keep him? Like you guys kind of already said, I don't think Cooper has put enough out there during games for teams to really evaluate and think, especially with him being a tryout player, that we're not missing anything by trying to stash him on the practice squad, in my opinion. But there must be enough flashes or enough there to try to put him up there to the fire and just see what we have. But you want to figure that out now, because if it's not working out, then we just, then we need to move on and make room for other people. It's we have limited spots in the defensive line. I know Brian already mentioned, the other players that we have too, Ukwu, Agude, Nate Lynn's out there still. And, the thing working against Keith Cooper is that he's new, right? Like, he just got here. All these other guys were guys we had last year. They've been in this system before. We kind of know, for the most part, what we have. They're still younger players, but yeah. So that's what I think that they are benefiting by trying to put Keith Cooper in with the ones right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it's by accident, and the fact that he keeps doing it. Yeah, I sometimes they'll do that to test out their competition, but we're getting to the nitty gritty and we're playing against the Texans and he's up there with the ones. So it just strikes me as odd. And I think that they have a pretty high opinion of him. But yeah, so, the offense did pretty good. Started out pretty hot, then they had some struggles, and then they ended pretty good, it sounds like, in the red zone. I know we said we struggled up the middle, but it seems like the runs around the edge, there was a nice 20-yard run they posted on Twitter. The Lions did. Jahmyr Gibbs got all the way to the outside, so Jameer's doing Jameer things. And Amon-Ra had some touchdowns too, so he got into the party. And Khalif had, I guess he burned his guy, and he had 2 misses. Like Goff missed him on one, and the second one he dropped, and that was like they did an end of the game scenario, and they would have scored like a 61-yard touchdown on the very first play, and Khalif just dropped the ball. So disappointing they dropped the ball. Nice that he got open, but almost doesn't win you football games, unfortunately.
Did you see the report from the defense about? Like I saw from multiple news outlets that Alex Anzalone was like the player of the day on the
Had
defense.
a day.
That he really was showing out. And I also saw that Jack Campbell was not at his best, and they actually had Zach Cunningham out there with Anzalone and Barnes. So that's kind of interesting to hear that about Campbell. But good that Anzalone seems to be in full force and really showing out.
I was concerned earlier on with Anzalone and that contract dispute, and whether he was gonna take his role and play it out for this year, or if he was gonna hold out, passing that torch to Jack Campbell, that kind of stuff. I'm hopeful that we can figure something out with Alex Anzalone, but at the same time, I think Jack is probably going to be the new guard. So
yeah, I think the Jack thing, he must have been dealing with something, because this is Dan said this is Jack's defense. They're not going to not have him out there. However, I like what Zach Cunningham, for a backup, I like what he's provided so far, and he's going to add something to this team, especially early on. When Malcolm comes back, that'll be an interesting. I think Zach might feel the brunt of Malcolm coming back, but for the time being, I trust Zach being out there. A little bit lackluster. What we lose in coverage, we're going to get in run defense with him, and we know he's going to put his nose in there. So kind of interesting. But yes, I heard the same thing about Alex, that the thing about Alex, we just talked about, I just said about coverage with Zach. Well, Alex is probably one of the best coverage linebackers in the game, and that's his specialty. And there's probably numbers to provide that he is number 1 linebacker in coverage. When we didn't have him last year, the Bills just like carved us up.
Ate us up.
That was when we had Zeke Turner back there. I mean, we were really feeling it at that point.
Thanks for reminding me.
It's all right. Bear bad news here. So, yes, I am glad that Alex is out. You're right, Brian. It's great to have. I don't think necessarily the contract situation, like, it's settled, probably not to the satisfaction of Alex, but he's playing. He's going to play his heart out, because he's playing for his contract for next year, whether it be for the Lions or someone else. He's going to, Alex is I'm sure he's going to be a captain again this year. And it is what it is. I'm happy he's on our team. This might be his last season. If it is, I hope we go out with a bang with him.
100%.
All right. Anything else in the joint practice that I missed or that you want to bring up?
I have one more thing that I read.
Yeah, go ahead.
They said that Jared Goff tried to throw a no-look pass, and I guess it was horrendous, and it got intercepted. So yes. I'm glad, you know what? That's, if you're going to be cute, do that during the joint practice. Do that now. Don't do that during the game.
Yeah, exactly. Bullock was right there, intercepted it. So when I listened to Jeremy and Al talk about it, they said it was like a regular play. Justin Rogers reported it as a 2-point conversion is play. So like, it's one of those things where if you've ever been at practice, it's really confusing, like, to know everything that's going on, because it's not like you got the TV broadcast, the scoreboard's out the other end of the field, or if they're updating it, you don't know, because when I'm there and when Jacob and I are there, like, you're looking at the scoreboard, then you're also trying to ID who's on the field, because you want to know, who's facing each other. And there's just a lot going on. So I can understand the confusion that you can have with that. But yeah, let's have him get out of his system right now. He's trying to pull out his inner Matthew Stafford and try to do the no-look pass. Didn't work out as well. He does own Mahomes, though, So maybe he's just like, I'm going to out Mahomes. They are facing each other later on this year. Maybe he was going to whip it out in that game with the Chiefs. He can't.
I heard Goff got turned over twice, and I'm glad that here one of those was a no look, because that makes me feel a little bit better about the situation.
Yeah. Yes.
But other than that, I heard Goff was on fire and on point and played really, really well. So
yeah, I don't expect anything less from Jared Goff. He's the real deal, as we said earlier. All right, we got a game here coming up Saturday, 1:00. How many roster spots do you realistically think are up for grabs, Brian? Do you have any, like, mean, I'm not going to ask you to name the players or anything like that, but realistically, how many roster spots are open on this 53-man roster, in your opinion?
It's interesting because it has to depend on, are you holding on to 7 wide receivers? Are you looking at 10 offensive linemen? Are you how many D linemen are we holding up? Are we signing Zadarius Smith back?
Yeah.
These are all kind of like come into play. So I mean, I think probably the most 4. I'm looking at like fringe spots, and it has to do with like Nate Lynn, Keith Cooper. You talk about him, those edge spots, and that could be easily taken away if they decide to go with Zadarius Smith and bring him back. I think it's limited. I mean, if you think about a team that, 19 starters from last year's team are returning, and that's a solid foundation before even getting into it.
I know. What do you think, Jacob? How many you got? How many spots
Yeah,
do you
I'm
think
right
are
there.
realistically
I'm thinking maybe three to 4 that have not decisions have not already been made. And there's also like, is Josh Pascal going to be on the PUP? Is Hassanine, we already talked about what's going on with them. So there's a couple spots that may be available, just what they do with them. Maybe that's where Zadarius comes in. Not sure yet, but yeah, I think there's real limited spots here.
And it sounds like from Dan's media session this morning that Pascal's probably going to be on at least the 4-week PUP.
Right.
Yeah, it was going to be a little bit long. He said a little bit longer than we expected. So at this point, if he's not back, I would say the POP. That's what maybe when they brought Wingo back, that shocked me a little bit because like, I mean, to me that means he's going to be ready before the 4 weeks. Or I mean, the other thing is, could they cut him? Like that's the thing. Like, but it seems weird to bring him back to just cut him. I don't know, and because that's the Keith Cooper and the Wingo thing, like a little bit of overlap, I think a little bit, and it's like okay, and if you listen
and
to
Dan
the press,
talked about it.
Yeah, it did not. Justin Rogers said the exact same thing I was thinking. I left that press conference less confidence of Wingo's place on this team than when I went into when the press conference started.
Yeah, when he got hurt, I was like, he's somebody they really like. I think he contributed, and we're going to bring him back right away, right? And after that press conference, like, maybe not. So
yeah, I still think he makes it, but I was kind of also disappointed that basically Dan said he's not going to get, he didn't do really anything today, maybe just individuals, and then it doesn't sound like he's playing on Saturday. So we're not going to see him. He's going to have 2 weeks, to get ready, but that roster decision is due on Tuesday. So it's like, how much is he going to be able to show him before Tuesday on that? So
how many spots were you thinking though?
I'm with you guys. Like I think I'm up more around 5 than I'm thinking, but realistically it's probably 3 or 4 that, but they could go. The Zadarius thing is like interesting because that really puts a wrench in it. And the Wingo thing today, before I heard that, that threw another, like I had to rethink some stuff. I still think he's on the roster, but that did make me think. Hold pause on this preseason game. Who needs to show the most in this game? There's an obvious answer, but you could name more than one. So I'm gonna start with you, Brian. Who needs to show it in this game?
I mean, if you're going to keep 3 quarterbacks, I mean, Hendon Hooker's got to play out of his mind. I think that's number 1. I think Nate Lynn is probably one of those fringe guys too that has shown a lot, but I still think he's a fringe player that, whether they decide to go with Zadarius or decide to go with him, he's going to be pretty important too. You get into the Agudes or the Ukus, I think those guys are going to be trying to be stashed on practice squads. Dan talked about it today about this is not a 53-man roster. This is a 69-man roster. And, those I think are going to be guys that we're going to lean on at some point. Whiteside is another guy that I think is on the fringe and maybe on the outside looking in. Hallett, Strickland, these are guys that we like, but with we just started playing Rockius in at safety, and he's shown that he can do it, so his versatility allows us to get rid of some of those fringe guys too. So
yeah, you're right. The Rocky Sin, there's Avonte Maddox, Rocky Sin being able to play all over really gives you some flexibility of like how many players you want to keep in that defensive back room. Jacob, so I think we're all in agreement. Hendon Hooker needs to show out. Is there a player other that you're looking at for Saturday that, hey, that I got to see this person and they got to really do well?
Brian kind of mentioned most of the ones I had too.
Sorry.
Hallett, Whiteside. No, you're good. Kennelly also, the safety.
Kennelly.
I think based on what they've been doing with him in practice and everything, plus how much they're using him on special teams, I think he has a legitimate chance to try to get a roster spot, but I still think they need to see more out of him. And, I hope it's irrelevant, but if it does come down where, with the wide receivers, if we're only keeping 6, Lovett and Meeks, it's down to them. So, like, it's going to be very big for those guys to show out, have a good game, not even necessarily by, actually getting the catches, but on special teams, which they've both been doing pretty good on special teams and everything, too. Like, in my opinion, they've both been doing a really good job. I like both of them, but it may be a numbers game. If we do end up keeping 3 quarterbacks, maybe we have to sacrifice that 7th receiver on the initial 53. So, they're playing for their jobs here. So everybody's got to show out. But, those are the people I think I'm zooming in and going to be looking up closer for sure.
My thought was, Lovett. Meeks is shown, like, from the perspective of the league, Meeks is shown more than Lovett at this point. I know early on it was Lovett over Meeks, like in that very first preseason game where Lovett got like 9 targets. I know he dropped 2 of them, and he's had some drops, in the last preseason game. And Meeks is like really taking advantage of more opportunities. And so from a league perspective, I think Meeks might be harder to stash, to get on your practice squad than a Lovett at this point. So for me, Lovett's got to really, show his worth just to show that the rest of the league, so the Lions are afraid of him, trying to, let's just keep 7 because we're not, if we want to keep them, they're not going to make it to the practice squad. It's interesting. They both show out in special teams, which may just make them roster locks to begin with, depending on your opinion on that. It's interesting, but I think that's going to be a good battle and it'll be a fun battle. And I'm glad that they got something to play with because Hendon's going to want, well-motivated players because he's got to show out. He's got to have a good game.
But I'm not going to lie to you. I do not want to see Tesla even in this
Yeah.
preseason game at this point. I think he's shown enough, and I don't want to see him get any banged up at all.
I get that, and I agree with you. The only reason I'd like to see him out here is if we're really going to give Hendon a shot, like, hey, you're going to make this roster, you got to give him some tools. And Lovett or Meeks are, those are fine wide receivers, and they're probably going to make this. They're probably going to make an NFL roster, right? So they're NFL players. You might want to give Tesla a shot on there. Maybe you give him a little break on special teams so he doesn't have that much wear and tear, and that he goes out there because Tesla's going to give you 100%, right? He's going to run into someone. Even if he's not catching the ball, if you're running the ball, he's going to go dig out the safety and do his thing. So let's hit on some of these chats before we wrap this stuff up here. Let's see, I just want to say we got Justin May, the rapper, new fan for us, obsessed Detroit Lions fan from Rochester Hills. Says, I just want to see a Lions Super Bowl before I die. Don't we all? 100%. Royal Ace says, here's a question for you, Jacob. What do you think our record against the opponents in the AFC will be?
AFC opponents. Well, we've got some difficult opponents in the AFC.
You got Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens. Those are 3, and there's probably a 4th.
Those are the 3 big ones I was thinking. We play the Browns.
Oh, the Browns.
And the Steelers.
Okay. Now 5. Okay, so we got 5. I'll let you go first, and I'm going to ask you, Brian. So I'm giving you the advantages of our guests. You get a little time to think, but what do you think our record is going to be against those teams?
4-1.
4-1. Where's your loss?
I'll say we I don't like to speak these things into existence. What are you doing?
No, just because you say it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Dan Campbell's not.
Thank you for backing me up with that.
They'll put it up.
I don't think Dan Campbell's hearing it. The world's hearing it. The universe is hearing me say it.
Universe.
And they're like, okay, you know what? It's okay if they lose this game because Jacob said it. No, obviously the big one that you're looking at is the Monday night game at Baltimore. Early on in the season, hopefully, both teams are healthy. That's going to be a tough one. Obviously we all remember what they did to us last time. So that's a one you've got circled because I really want that. I want to get them back. I want to win that game. But that's the one I'm looking at. That's one I'm looking at that I would think would be most likely to be the loss. I think, depending on how the season goes, we're going to handle the Steelers, the Browns, obviously. I think that we can slow down the Bengals enough that we can outscore them. I'm not too concerned about the Chiefs anymore. They're all going to be good games, but we have a good team too. So, I mean, that's where I'm saying 4-1. The loss will come somewhere.
Before you go, Brian, I just want to, we all saw that video of Joe Burrow running around in preseason game. Think of Hutch chasing him around. He's not going to get very far. So that's what I'm thinking about. All right, Brian, what our guest was Royal Ace. He wants to know the AFC opponent record. What do you think?
That's where I was at too. I was at 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
It was Baltimore. I think we have the Chiefs number. I think they're on the downswing now, even though they're coming off a Super Bowl appearance. I honestly think that the Lions are a solid team, and whether it's the Bengals, who I think are a contender, I just think we have more than them on both sides of the ball. I think we're going to be a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, and I think the Bengals might be a top 5 offense, but they might be a 32 defense, So that's where we fall. So
all right, yeah, I'm with you. I really want to get the Ravens game.
I know, I do too.
I really want to get it. 4-1 sounds good. It sounds very homerish. I say I'm gonna go 3-2, Jacob, just to disappoint you. But I
Okay,
don't know
where are the 2 losses coming?
Yeah.
Where are the 2 losses? Ravens, man.
Browns?
Not gonna lose to the Browns. If we lose to the Browns,
If we lose back-to-back games, Ravens and Browns,
oh my God,
Brian, if that happens, I'll punch Jason in the face now.
Let's just say I am no, Kenny Pickett, man, all the way. Yeah, we're trading for Kenny Pickett. That's what everybody wants. We got no. Let's just say the Chiefs get us back. And you know what? It's not even like fair. Some stupid penalty at the end of the game, Mahomes get bailed out. That's what I'm picturing in this game.
Okay.
They also
Sunday night in Kansas City.
They also false start every play and they get away with it. Oh wait, we've already seen that story. Larry says, Lions have such depth that, our players are going to end up on other teams that we cut, which I agree with him there. He also says Hooker has got to go. That roster spot is too important. And there are a lot of people that agree with you. I'll save my answer for Sunday, whether I agree with you or not. And he also says Meek stays and Lovett to the practice squad. He doesn't think that Lovett will get picked up. And that's why this preseason game is important for Lovett for if he wants to make it to the roster, because he's got to scare the Lions into thinking that another team's going to scoop him up.
I just think that Lovett is probably our Khalif Raymond replacement.
Yes.
And that Tesla is probably our Tim Patrick replacement, and so is Meeks. So I think that's where Meeks has kind of more of the upward battle.
Yeah. I like, Brett, you said it earlier, Brian. Brad Holmes said, let's get younger at this roster.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about this is that you got guys that excel in special teams. And Dave Phipp, if you listen to the interview or the presser, said that. He goes, we have not had that in my time here with the Lions where wide receivers have been our special teamers. And that's why we've only kept 4 for the past couple seasons, because those back end guys have to be special teamers. I mean, that's how they got. So mostly they were secondary or linebackers or whatever they used. They were just outside the wide receiver room. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for us. Like, the only way for these guys to get active on game day is to be good special teamers. And that's also going to allow them to practice and, be able to be on the team. And if an injury happens, you're active. So you're going to be out there and you'll get your NFL experience. So we're in a pretty good spot with that. I'm happy about that. Let's see. Larry says he lasted 7 rounds in the draft. He just doesn't think that, he impressed too many teams that they would put him on the 53-man roster. What I will caution you is there are multiple teams looking for wide receiver depth right now, and one of them's inside our own division, Minnesota. And the last thing I want to do is see a guy go over there and flourish. I don't want that. So I don't think we do it because we're scared, but I also don't want to play into the hands of the Vikings either and give them, one of our players.
I'll also say about that, I mean, yes, he lasted 7 rounds in the draft, but he was a top receiver at Georgia. It's not like he wasn't on any other team's radar, and there's a good chance that there could have been 10 teams that had him as a 7th round prospect or had him as like a high priority undrafted. They may have been on the phone with his agent as soon as the draft was over, but they thought they were going to be able to get him after. So that's a possibility. They also, it reminds me of Isaiah Williams last year. We had the undrafted, it's like, okay, we can't afford to let this guy go. He ends up making the team, And then we do, unfortunately, have to make that move and try to hope that he comes on the practice squad. He didn't make it. Next day, he claimed from the Bengals, where he still is right now.
Yep. It's an interesting conundrum, and that's one of the fascinating things we'll find out a little bit on Saturday, depending on play, and then again on most likely Tuesday at 4 p.m. How like a guy like him, I don't think we'll find out the last second. Some of the veterans will get released ahead of time, probably Monday, especially the Lions try to do that so they can latch on to another team if possible. The Lions will do right by their players. Yeah, that's coming up. Speaking about coming up, we have Sunday night. We are going to do, Jacob and I will be doing our biting recap of with the preseason game. We will release that probably right away on Sunday. Usually I'll hold it for the next day. However, we are also going to record, and I'm not sure if we're doing this live or not, Jacob. We haven't talked about it. We might do the 53-man live. That might be fun to do that a little interactive. So maybe we'll talk about that. Keep an eye on Twitter. We might do it live. Do our 53-man prediction. We'll have that out live on Sunday night. If we do it live Monday, it'll be on podcast just in time for Tuesday. And then
if we do it live, you can't edit it to make yourself sound smarter.
I
know. Are you sure you want to do that?
I do want to do that. I'm confident in myself, my friend. Next Thursday, we had a great guest today, Brian. Thanks for coming on. Next Thursday,
hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, next Thursday we're gonna have another good guest. Kurt Steele is gonna be on with us, which I'm super excited about. He reached out to me when we were on the Lions UK podcast, the Roar Lions UK, and I haven't reached out to Kurt because he's been doing this a little longer than us and kind of intimidated, to be honest with you. So it'd be nice to hook up with him, and then I'll be on the show at some point in September. So that'll be cool. Brian, you were an awesome guest. I hope that
thanks, man.
I know I was nice to you. I hope Jacob didn't scare you too much. When are you guys gonna come out with your next? What are you guys doing with the 53 next week? Do you guys have a plan in place, or?
So that's the plan. We're gonna come out with our 53. It's either Wednesday or Thursday, and try to get that thing out for everybody to enjoy and share, and give you our opinions on what we thought was a great pick and a great hold, and questions like what the heck they doing. So yeah.
All right.
Awesome. So we still got some people in the chat. I want to hang out for a second and say. We're the Lions. If you miss it at the top of the show, we're doing the Lions ticket giveaway for this podcast. If you're in the chat and if you want to enter, put your email in the chat, and that'll get you 2 entries when I draw the winner tomorrow. I'm going to draw it at 6 p.m. Eastern. You have to enter by 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you're catching this, the audio version, I said it at the top, but I'll say it again. Send me an email to talkinggritpodcast@yahoo.com. Your email, and just say you want to be entered in for the Lions tickets. 2 tickets, row 4, section 222. My personal seats, they're good. They're a good view. I really like those seats. And if you'd like to be higher up and be able to see the whole, see the routes and see the coverages and everything like that, they're great seats. And even if you just want to be able to watch the game, they're awesome seats. So I highly recommend it. All right, Brian, thank you so much for being on. If you want to hang out, we're gonna hang out with the chat for a little bit. And then Jacob, anything before we end our audio podcast version, before we just stick on with the chat?
No, just shouts out to Brian. Thanks for coming on. You did a great job. Definitely know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
definitely showed the people. Give another podcast to listen to.
I know.
Thanks, guys, for having me. It's awesome. I mean, the podcast community is kind of a cool community too. So it's fun to be able to hang out and bounce things off of each other. And I had questions. I reached out to Jason and Jacob, and they responded pretty quickly. So it was awesome to have them.
Yeah, except when I was in Chicago, I was a little delayed. I felt bad about that, but I was running the subway and everything. I was all over the place. Passing Time podcast. Check it out. Spotify, Apple. You can watch it on YouTube. They do some pretty cool video overlays over there and keep their video content interesting. So check that out over there. Subscribe to them. Follow them. Maybe we'll get Rob on at some point with us.
That's right.
We'll see how it goes. I know he must have been scared, man. I'm sorry.
He said I don't have as nearly as much to share. I'm like, come on, man. It'd be great. He's got tons to share. He's a hoot.
He's funny and he does good on his show. So whatever. If he we could keep communicating and we'll work it out. So
sounds good.
I think there's just
Jason
one
lets
thing-
the guests talk for the most part. It's just me that he will not shut up for.
I know, I do. You're right. Right. Well, that's for the preservation of the show, Jacob. I protecting
Whatever.
the show.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
It does. It helps me laugh at night. I can tell you that. All right,
At
man.
least somebody's laughing.
That's right. That's right. My kids, maybe they're humoring me. They think I'm funny, right? Your kids think I'm hilarious.
They just want to keep
JJ.
going to those Lions games.
They do. Yeah,
Right.
JJ. Yeah, JJ wants to go to the draft again, even though that band was terrible. All right. Anyways, one thing to say. Oh, Lions.